My current experience, maybe that's the best thing, is that they come in with their own purpose to give and to receive, to become better beings. And they're there for us, and they're also there not only for us, but for themselves to get some things that they still needed to learn or experience. There's such a deep connection, and it's eternal because love is eternal.
Welcome back to the Awakening Her podcast. In this conversation, I am sitting down with Maribeth Decker. Maribeth is an expert in intuitive animal communication, medical intuition, and energy healing on animals. I know you're going to love this conversation. We're sitting down and talking about all things pets, our connection to our pets, our soul journeys together. And she also shares a lot about how when we're experiencing behavioral issues or animals are acting certain ways, how we can communicate with them to more deeply understand them, to strengthen our bond and have an even deeper connection. There are so many things we touch on in this episode that I know you're going to love if you're an animal lover. Maribeth shares so much, and I cannot wait for you to hear it. So without further ado, let's welcome Maribeth onto the show. Hello, Maribeth. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you today. How are you?
I'm good, Talia. I'm kind of excited to be here. I'm pretty excited to be talking to you today. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, this is going to be really cool. I thank you for being here. This is such a cool conversation we're going to have, and it's also refreshing, I think, in the self-growth and the awakening and the healing. It can get really heavy and really focused around us, but let's bring some attention to our beautiful animal companions in our lives, our pets and animals in general. And I know everybody listening, most of you anyway, are empaths and have that deep connection to animals. So this is going to be such a great conversation. Before we start, though, can you just let us know just a little bit about yourself, anything you feel called to share, and of course, what you do?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I am an animal communicator, which is intuitive. I see more and more that I'm empathic. It's like I denied it for a while, but it's showing up. And I love the fact that I can connect intuitively with animals and have conversations with them, and help them. Mostly, it feels like, I will say it, like a relationship discussion between the human and the non-human, so their families enjoy each other more. And I've been working on, and I have the skills of medical intuition and um, energy healing, so I can use all of those pieces to create a better relationship. In fact, one of my friends said, you should say it's animal communication for PAW, positive changes. And I think that's true. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, that is really beautiful. So what does a typical, or I guess it's probably going to be different for every client, but what would someone come to you first and foremost? What are the types of things that people come to you for?
Well, a lot is behavioral. And when I say behavioral, since they cannot speak, we can feel or see anxious behavior. So anxious behavior, which can, so we'll get really down to it, like not using the litter box, some real basic things, not walking well on walks, fear, aggression, things like that. So there's some kind of issue there. I'm able to help people whose animals already have a story before they show up into the current family, and we can start to release them from that past so they can enjoy what I like to say is they just won the lottery, of families. And then finally, I work with people and their animals as the animals get older and help them as they decline, and even giving advice for a good transition and connecting with them afterwards. It's just good. Sometimes you have to have one more conversation to get you moving back into that memory of love rather than the total grief of loss.
Wow, you said that so beautifully. And I really hear that. That's such a special, just such a special offering because, as you said, they can't speak English. And so it can be frustrating, just like babies. It's like, what do you want? You're just crying, right? And we don't understand why our pets are doing certain behaviors. And some people just like, I don't know what's wrong with them. They just keep being inside or they keep acting this way or, but there's a communication there, obviously, which I can't wait to hear more about how they're communicating with us. But also the part about the end of life. I had a cat pass away that was 19 and a half that I had got as a kitten. So she had literally been in my life at that point, half of my life. And such a special relationship. I moved around a lot in that time in my life, different roommates, all this stuff. She was with me everywhere in the moving truck and on road trips and all, like she was my everything. And so it was a really, of course, sad, but also special transition. I haven't been around a lot of even humans as they've transitioned and been the caregiver. So I don't have a lot of experience in that, but with her, it was so special. And just as she faded out, and then exactly like you said, I had this last conversation because the grief was just so deep. And then I was guilt and should I have done more? And, right at the end and all those things. And I had to just feel it. I really had to just feel it and be really sad and cry and weep and all that. But then I had this one last conversation and maybe we'll get to it. But I heard something really special and I felt her. And it was like this completion of like, she could then kind of go and move on. I could also, and as you said, restore back to the positive rather than just being in the grief. And it took time. It wasn't like one moment and then now I'm good. It was definitely time. But that's such a special thing to help people with because we don't know what to do with grief. It's heavy, it's hard, and just there's so much there. So from everything you do, from them having behavioral issues to passing and all of that, it's just so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And I love it. I feel very grateful to do this because I feel like with all the animals who've passed, like I got a whole bunch of friends on the other side. You think of it just humans, but boy, those I'm excited to meet them. I have to say, as I say that, I do have my animals who've passed still show up, particularly the two doggies that left in 2022. I'll feel them as I'm walking my current pups on the trails that we love to go on. So it's not that, but just seeing maybe all the faces of the beings that I worked with in the afterlife, that might be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's really special. So starting in the 3D, starting in the physical world, when I just would love to hear you talk about whatever comes up, but when animals have either abuse, and like you said, they already have a story. I experienced that when I was a kid. We rescued a border collie that was just so beautiful, but had certain traits on who would scare her and make her cower. And she had these experiences. So animals that come with trauma like that, also when we're having those behavioral issues, I'd love to hear about your take on some of those things that we experience in the 3D that feel like, how do we figure this out? How do we help them move through this? How do we shift that behavior if needed?
What I do, and since you're telling me there are a lot of empaths listening, so this may be like, maybe you can do this too, is I go in, connect with the animal, and I've gotten a really, really good description of the behaviors the folks are worried about. And I share that mind to mind, but it's visually. I'm like, what's going on? What? And I ask them to tell me or show me what they're experiencing at the time. And then I share it with their people, which all of a sudden you've got a deeper connection and understanding. And a lot of times it's a confirmation for the person. But then I go further and say, so can you tell me the origin or the cause of how you're acting or why you're acting this way? And I will get impressions. I wish it was no, actually, I'm glad it's not a movie, but I'll get impressions of some of the bad behaviors that they have experienced. And where it was created in their mind. Many times we go back to that situation and we do clearing for them at that time. And I tell the people, depending on how they understand it, okay, we're giving them another memory. Now, that might sound like not a big deal, but what happened to them is a memory. Let's give them a good one. Whether we clear out and show them, boy, if you were ours at this time, this is how we would treat you. And we give them a different story for how loved they are and lovable, because a lot of them don't realize they're lovable. And there's more detail, but you clear a lot of that out. And I ask them if we can. We may even give some of the terrible energy that they've had back to the people who caused it and say, honestly, I'm giving this to you with love because this is yours to handle. This is not the dogs or the cats. And then bring in some good energy and show the animal the truth of what their life is like now, and show them how they could act in those situations differently from what they're acting now. That's just a little piece, okay? But that's...
Yeah, it sounds a lot like human healing,
Yes.
reminding you that you are loved and I'm so sorry you went through that and you didn't deserve that. It's not pretending it didn't exist and just expecting them to act different now. It's that love, it's that healing. And I also want to point out to anybody that when we work with our intuitive gifts, you were saying visually, which means, you're probably one of your dominant types is clairvoyant for this type of work. But for me, I'm clairaudient. So I will hear my dog, I will hear my cat as a voice inside. And you said sometimes pictures, or it could be a movie. Some people could see little clips, and it's like really tuning in, recognizing that your animal has this consciousness as well, and experiences and trauma just like us. And we can connect just like we do with other humans to our animal. And it must be so refreshing for them. I just got this when you said that you would come in and, talk to the animal and or communicate and, what's happening, what happened and all that. I just thought this animal's probably going like, oh, thank goodness somebody's actually trying to speak to me. Like they've been sitting there the whole time, almost trying to wave their little paws to get your attention. And finally somebody's asking me how my day was or like how I am,
Not just how I'm driving you humans nuts.
Yeah. Not just no, sit, stay, down, bad. It's actually like, what's going on in there? And I want to remind you, you're safe. Like what a different approach compared to what maybe the typical pet receives.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Because I think it is. They are sentient beings. They have souls. They have memories, and they have lots to share.
Tell me about your experience, your perspective on animals having souls, maybe even the way that humans have soul families. Do we do multiple lifetimes with animals? Do they come in with a purpose like, other human souls do? I'd love to just hear all about that.
My current experience, maybe that's the best thing to way, is that they come in with their own purpose to give and to receive, to become better beings, and they're there for us, and they're also there again, not only for us but for themselves to get some things that they still needed to learn or experience. And that has been something I've really delighted in, that there's such a deep connection, and it's eternal, because love is eternal. And it makes more sense that we keep bringing in those beings that we love. And it's their choice, of course. But I'll stop there to see where we go next.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really neat. And it makes sense too on a soul level that the role is different. Like I believe that one of the reasons we live so many times is because we are source experiencing itself, and we go, okay, what would it be like to be a this? What would it be like to be a that? And we have these certain experiences, even good or bad, because it's about the experience. And so being an animal is a different role to your support team. So say you have your family, and maybe your current sister now was, a grandma or something in a previous life. We kind of stick together. Coming in and being an animal is a totally different support to a human than being another human. I don't know if that totally makes sense. But I could see that very special, specific role that I'm just thinking cats and dogs, mainly because they're our most common pets where we are in the world. What a unique role to come in and support another soul in something totally different than being a human. I just think that's really neat. And do you feel that humans can reincarnate as animals and then back to humans, or is it a different frequency there? What do you think?
Yeah, my sense right now is that that they can. I'm not really good at picking that up, but I've had people tell me that, I don't know, their cat, I swear that's my grandmother. I'm like, maybe it is, because again, that's our intuition. I'm working with somebody right now, and her little dog. I said, this was a human in a past life, and I don't usually pick those things up. But she says, oh, somebody else told me that. He looked into his eyes and said, he's so human. And there is a different experience in that role than in the human form. It's it's a different species. You have a different position in the world structure right now. And so I believe, and there's always the laughter is like, I want to come back as my cat because they're the most spoiled animal I have ever met. So there's always the joke about that. And I just wonder if somebody actually does that so that they can sit around and get fed fancy feast.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm open to it, and I think it does happen.
Yeah. Do you know, or what's your gut feeling on, like, do all animals then have souls? I mean, I couldn't see some having them and some not. Does like a dragonfly and a whale and a squirrel, does every animal have a soul from your perspective?
I'm sensing that, yes, I don't get it how that fly has a soul, but hey, I don't have to know everything to just say we're all the spark of creation, and this is a living sentient being. And so, yeah, so it might be a different expression, but
yeah, that makes sense to me too, because energy works in a certain way, and it wouldn't make sense if some did and some didn't, I don't think. But again, like you, right? I can't possibly know it all and understand it all from my human brain. So we just play, we have conversations about it. So do you feel then that your animals, like dogs, cats that come into your life and beyond, some people have, I've never had birds or anything like that, but these core animals, the ones that really you spent a good amount of time with or had that deeper relationship. So do you think that they come here to teach us something or to help us in a specific way? Like, my role is to help this human through this time. How do you read that? Like, what is their purpose in our life and also our purpose in their life, if that makes sense?
It does. It does. That's a tough one for me. I'm in a place where saying, could we stop making it all about us humans and what the other species do for us or don't do for us? So there's a part of me that says, well, yes, I do believe they come in as a gift for us. But if we don't go any farther and just say, what are they there for? And what am I going to get out of the relationship? Like it's a contractual relationship, we're missing it. I think it's a give and take. There might be something, and I have felt this, especially with animals who haven't stayed very long in a family, that what they were there for was to receive unconditional love. And once they got it, they were able to pass. My husband's cousin had got a little puppy that had the trachea was really messed up. It was pushed and shattered, and she did not live long. But I felt that in that short amount of time, she got what she needed. And you might even say enlightenment if you want to go there. Like she just got, this is what I need. I'm going to pass on. And what it gifted to Barbie, it felt like an increased ability to be compassionate, even when things didn't work out the way that she wanted. So there was a gift there. It was a tough one, but she was up to the task.
Yeah. I love that you say that, because it is both ways. And, I totally understand that. Like, they can come in for a short time because that was what was meant to be. That was the fulfilling of the contract, or whatever you want to say, and it can be from them. Like, we are helping them to fulfill something. We are giving them that love that their soul needed. And like you said, we then learn and move and grow through grief and letting go. And, not all lessons feel good. That's for sure. So I would love to talk about and ask you about how you talk about connecting with your animals in a more personal way, like while they're here and while we're interacting with them right now. And I just love to hear the advice or the words you have for people to consider about how we can interact with our animals in a deeper way, and relate to them in a deeper way.
I would ask you, anybody listening, to start considering that this world of sentient beings is not truly a hierarchy. We're all here for a purpose. And so starting to see our beloved companions in a deeper way of, full emotions. And I love it. Now, I understand it's presented in a non-human way, but that doesn't mean better or worse. So I want to say right now, because we could see how the human race has affected the world. and that probably our dogs would not be doing this if they were in charge. I don't know. It's a joke. But to see them as full companions, and even the species as full companions in this world and making this world work, and we're all a part of it. I think it would go off, set us really forward as human beings when we started to respect those non-humans in our life. However we can do that and treat them with as much love and respect as we can. And what I really love is science is catching up with this, because they're looking at how different species solve problems and seeing how they can use it for humans to solve problems. So there's stuff like that. And there's even science that is showing us that indeed dogs have a part of the brain that understands words like humans do. So like, push all that prejudice aside. Welcome the deeper relationship and the gifts that they can give us, as one species to another, as one soul to another.
It's almost like adding on to that, or just jamming on that. Like, they are not simple because they can't speak English. Or also with dogs, and perhaps cats are this way, they don't show pain very quickly because survival, and they can be really quote unquote tough, and a lot of dogs don't show pain and stuff like that as easily. But it doesn't mean they're not feeling it, or it doesn't mean that they don't have a wide range of emotions. From, of course, we've seen a dog feel guilt or shame, or we've seen cats be manipulative, or jealous, or like they clearly have these different emotions. So it's almost like I'm hearing you say, like, they're not just these simple beings on the side that are here for us. They're fully dimensional, full emotions. They've got a story, they've got a soul, they've got thoughts, they've got feelings, and relating to them in that full way. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, thank you. That's beautiful. Because I do think that when we start to respect and see them as who they are, I think it raises our vibration, which raises everything.
Mhm.
We all add to the vibration. I keep seeing this thing where when I have so I'm outside eating or something, and you probably think this is nuts, but there's this fly bugging me, and I've done this before, and I say, "You're that hungry? Okay," and I'll take a little piece of my food and put it over there and say, "Fine, you eat that. This is mine. Leave me alone." So it's like I'm not ready to swat you, but this is my food. So
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
silly, but it's a small example of like taking a different shift on how to live with them.
Yeah. Do you find I don't know how to say this without I don't want to offend anybody, but do you find that dogs that are because there is like more intelligent animals and species and there's dogs that are much simpler. Um, do they require different interactions? Like I have a dog that is like very, very intelligent. And I've noticed things that she's learned how to do that we haven't even specifically gone like, okay, now we're teaching and here's a command and then a treat and then a this. But, she'll have a ball and sometimes I'm just not into it. And she's squishy, 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 squish in my face, and I just one day I was like, Callie, no, no ball. And she just looked at me and turned around and walked down the stairs. And I thought, whoa, but she knows no and she knows ball. And she could tell by my energy, even though I've never taught her when I say no ball, and now she just knows it. Now, if I go, no, no ball, it's not the time, she turns around and walks away. I go, thank you, Callie. But sometimes, like, there are dogs that are really intelligent that maybe do you find that it basically what I'm saying is it, does it affect the communication with the animal based on sort of their maybe what we would consider intelligence? Or do you think all dogs, or in this case, dogs, understand what we're saying if we're sitting down and going, like, I'm sorry you're feeling that way? Or or do they all communicate the same on that level, even if on the surface they may be more or less, quote unquote, smart? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I have to say first. I want to say something because it's funny. Somebody was saying that their cat was really dumb, and after the cat passed, there was a psychic connecting to him. They told me that the cat said, "I am not dumb." So
Yeah.
I think they're listening, and some are offended, particularly cats. I got two, so I can say it.
Yeah.
So I think that just like humans, there are different ways of receiving information and different ways of processing it. One of my clients and I lately, with her dog, we've decided he is neurodivergent.
Hmm.
And so we shift how we communicate for this guy because he doesn't, what you would usually use to connect and communicate doesn't work quite as well. But when we do it this way, oh, he gets it. So I think there is probably some neurodivergence in other species. We figured this out this year. And yet, if we look at neurodivergent humans, we find that they are not dumb. They just don't process the same way what we've figured out is supposed to be the normal way, but it still works.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope I'm answering the question. So I think there is differences in how you connect and communicate and what works for each individual,
Mm-hmm.
even in the species, non-human species.
Yeah. It feels like they're just so the same as humans in so many ways. They're just in
Yeah.
a different suit with more fur and more hairballs. But,
Yeah.
like we're all, and all, even how it used to be autism, yes or no, and now it's a spectrum. And I think all
Yeah.
neurodivergence is a spectrum. We all operate differently. We all have little things that, like, no, that makes me feel anxious, or no, I like my desk to be this way. And of course, there's a huge scale. Some people it's way more, way less. But I think animals, as you're saying that, I'm just really present to, they have things like that as well. And I know I've had clients and friends tell me, like, my dog doesn't like to be, one of my friends, it's like if all the doors in the room are closed, it makes the dog feel anxious because there's no almost way out. And she's like, I don't really like that either. But we just learned, so we don't close all the doors because it makes the dog feel uneasy.
Yeah,
And we can totally do that as if it was a kid going like, no, don't close that door. And you go, okay, that's fine. You work along with them is what I'm
you
hearing,
do.
and they
You
all
do.
process things differently.
Yeah. And then because you're doing it through respect and collaboration, you're increasing the bond, you're strengthening the bond because it's so good
Mm,
for them. And then, right back at you. It's so good for us too. We just build on that. It's
yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. I really am enjoying this conversation. This is just such a cool way, because I know a lot of the community, I would say everybody listening, has a deeper connection to animals, feels deeply connected to their animals. A lot of us being empaths, animal lovers, all of that, it just brings even more depth into, like, yes, they're in your life for a reason and you are in their life for a reason. It's a co-creative thing. It's, to really respect them and see them as that. And thinking about, and I'd love to hear if there's anything else you want to add about when they are quote unquote misbehaving. And, I've had friends that had like a cat that just, once they started peeing, it just would continually start peeing, and it's this big problem, and it can be a headache and it stinks and it's frustrating. But you're also sharing, like, to come at it from not just a bad, rub their nose in it, good, bad thing, and actually inquiring, like, why are we acting this way? Again, it reminds me of if you had a kid that was tantruming every day, it wouldn't just be like, bad little Timmy, get in your room. It would be like, what's going on? Is there something going on at school? Is there some need? Like, share with me, and we can start to have that approach with animals. So I'd love to hear any more on when they are misbehaving, when we're having those training issues or behavioral things that we view as like, no, we have to shift this, and how we can approach it a little bit differently.
I love that. And it's really funny because my blog that's coming out on Friday is going to be on two cat stories who were using the litter box. So, and what works for me is, again, what we've been talking about. You go out, you go into connection, and you find out the why.
Mm-hmm.
For this story that I'm going to put out on Friday, one cat, I heard him heard the words pissed off, and I'm like, is it him? I said, no, it's one of the family members. And it turned out the wife was really pissed off about work, and he was trying to pull that energy out of her and literally pissing off. Not a good thing. So she did some healing. She acknowledged it. She actually ended up changing her job. And when we had the conversation and we shifted the energy for both of them, he started using the litter box.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's physical and there's something going on there. And so you want to, why do you want to discipline somebody for something that's physical and they can't help? So finding that out, checking that out. Others, it's territorial, and you do some energy around that. The other cat was like, oh, that other cat, they all think she's the rock star. Well, I got something to say about that. And I'm pretty cool too. She was like marking her territory, literally, like a gang member. Like, all right, so fine, you love her. Well, this is mine. And we did some healing around it. So you ask what's going on, and you try to see it from their point of view, and then make some changes, especially if you're empathic and you got the connection. The little dog that they're asking why he's not using the pee pad while she's at work, and he says, well, I don't like to step in my own pee and poo. Oh, okay. Let me put like 4 more pee pads down before I go to work.
It's really, as you're saying, just relating to them more personally, even though they're not a person. But it's a personal connection. There's a reason. Yeah, I love that. And I've experienced that many times where it's like, what? Like, my dog never pees inside. Now she just turned 3. And so there was, of course, the training where sometimes stuff would happen, but it was last year, and she peed inside on these mats, and I just was like, what? And I was saying, and I went to her and she felt clearly like little tail rapidly wagging in like a shame way. And she's looking up at me like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, what's going on? And a couple of days later, she had her first heat. And I didn't know that can happen when they go into heat. They, whatever it is, the swelling, something, they can pee more frequently and pee on things or pee in places they wouldn't normally. And once she moved through that, it didn't happen again. Like it was these things where I thought, oh yeah, like of course there was a reason. And looking at it instead of good, bad in a like a mad way, it's more inquiring what could have happened. I love that you said, think of it from their perspective. Try to look at it from their perspective. Is there a reason they could have done this? Because there is. It's not just an animal trying to be defiant. Even behind that, there's a reason.
There's something attached to that beyond thinking they want to make you mad and you make your life miserable. I've never met anybody who's like, oh, I'm going to ruin her day today.
Yeah. But if it is, it's because you brought in that other cat or you give them more attention. Yeah. It's neat to think of the key animals in your life and that we are giving them something in the physical and they're giving us something, that reciprocal relationship. And I had this thought just the other day where I thought, I really see why dogs and humans found each other way back, because if you look at the skills of a dog, it's, guarding, protection, they can bark louder, like a lot of that sort of protection. And then of course the companionship, the tasks, they're very trainable, a lot of dogs. But then humans, we can give the dog food and shelter and of course love, but that food and shelter is what in the wild they spend all their time doing. So if we can give them food and shelter and companionship, they guard our territory and can help us do tasks or whatever it is, originally that they do for us. That actually is a really cool symbiotic relationship. And sometimes I say that to my dog. I'm like, we'll give you shelter and food and love and you keep protecting. So we live out in the country. And once we got her, we didn't have any rats. We don't have any raccoons. We don't have any, problems. There's even bears around, but because we have her, we know we're good and she helps us protect. And I look at it even in the 3D as I give you this and you give us this and thank you. You're part of our family. Like you have an important role. And then there's also, again, that emotional component and the companionship. And, it's so beautiful to look at our pets as important members of our family, not just kind of the things over there that sleep on the floor. It is such a co-creative experience.
It is. It really is. And all we need to do is choose to make it so and start acting that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's once you transition over, I mean, it's like I'm never going back.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So any last words, any one thing that you think everybody should know, your advice after helping all these people, your main advice to people?
I think we said it in some way, but as much as we think we picked them, they picked us. They picked us as well. It's a mutual decision. And to see it as a partnership and to start the relationship or reset the relationship to say, yep, you're in my life because you chose me. Same with me. I'm in your life because I chose you. And use that as a foundation. I think it may help.
Yeah.
Maybe for me, it gives me more patience, more compassion. And who doesn't need to learn more of that these days? Or maybe we probably have always had issues, patience and compassion.
That's beautiful. That really is a big part of what they teach us, our cats, our dogs, our pets, that patience, that compassion. Thank you so much. That's so beautiful. I really feel like what you do is so important. So thank you for helping. So can you let us know where we can reach out if somebody wants to follow along? You mentioned your blog as well. I will put the links all below, but where can we find you?
Well, the best way to find me is on my website. I tried to put so much stuff on there. sacredgrove.com, SACREDGROVE.com. And, you can contact me there. You can see everything I do.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. It was so nice to connect, and thank you again. you so much for tuning in to this episode on the Awakening Her podcast. I hope you enjoyed this conversation between me and my guest. And if you did, we would love to hear from you. Come find us on Instagram. All the links are below in the show notes. Take a screenshot that you're listening to this episode, sharing your takeaways or your enthusiasm for the show. Tag us both over on Instagram. And if you do that, I will send you a free gift. I really do hope you enjoyed this conversation, and I will see you in the next episode.